أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي صدق الله العلي العظيم. Okay, we'd like to welcome you to our fourth in the series on the basic Arabic grammar course. I thought today I'll just give you some background and more information about how I started my journey in learning Arabic. Back when I was still a teenager, I studied under the late Abdul Ghaffar Muhammad, Arabic teacher, was passionate about Arabic. He hadn't traveled to the Arab world, but he gave us whatever he could, and he inspired that first spark in my journey. Then, as we went on in later years, Abdullah Dirat touched my life. He is the brother of Ahmed Dirat, and he used to come all the way from Fordsburg to Lenasia to teach us at one stage in Rainbow Mosque and then in Sabri Mosque once a week. And we did this journey of studying Surah Yusuf with him, and it was quite an interesting experience for us. Then I went on to Durban, Westville, where Mahmoud Dawood was my teacher, as well as Abdul Samad Abul Qadir, the renowned Arabic teacher, whom we still have in our midst today, and who did a monumental work on doing a literal translation using colors of the Quran, colors rather in the words of the Quran, and he's completed the entire Quran like that. So all kudos to him in terms of what he's done for us, in terms of at least giving us a literal understanding of the Quran. And then I went overseas to Riyadh, where I spent about 3.5 years. And I think there is, when I started, I learned through an immersion program kind of a way where you were immersed in an Arabic environment, and you're forced to speak, forced to listen, forced to engage with everybody in Arabic. So it makes you learn that much faster. It just springboards you into a new language because you are in the environment where it is used all the time. On TV, on the road signs that you see on the street, in everything, basically, even your roommate in the hostel with us. And I had some very good roommates, especially one from Yemen and one from Sudan. They were really from the Arab communities. I really have respect for them. They really are sincere and very good, practical and practicing Muslims that you can find anywhere in the world. All right, so overall, and going there, although I was learning a lot about Arabic terminology and terms and grammar stuff, jargon, but I think what I still did on my own was I took that second book that I was recommending for you people to purchase and use, which is A New Arabic Grammar by Haywood and Ahmed. And I did every exercise in that book for the first time. Although I studied at Durban Westville, that book, but there I went through it on my own, where I did the exercises, and then I used that key to the exercises as well to self-correct and learn by myself as to what I did wrong, and ask teachers as to why is it this way and not that way. And that's how my journey began. And there's no turning back, because after coming back from Riyadh, my understanding of the Quran improved quite dramatically. Now, when I read the Quran, I'm able to pick up words, I'm able to identify roots, see inflections, see derivations. And I think I'm going to show you that experience coming through in some of the Quranic slides that I've got today and in the course later, how to actually see these things, with a critical eye, with an eye that perceives these things. And you then from there you actually get a picture and an understanding of what lies around that ayah and in that verse. And obviously you can study tafsir in that way. So that's the journey. So I'd like to share with you, I've shared with you mine, and I hope yours will be equally stimulating and exhilarating as we go down this path. Then the second thing I want to talk about is this mountain. Now, when you look at a mountain like Mount Everest, it's obviously not for everybody for climbing. For the best of prepared hikers and mountaineers, that one requires extreme patience and perseverance and training that goes months and years into it before you attempt that particular tallest peak of the world. But let's not go that high. Let's talk of maybe Mount Kilimanjaro in Kenya, which is also one of the highest peaks in the continent of Africa. Even for that one, you require training and a mindset that gears you up for it. But maybe for us, let's talk of this as the Drakensberg, right? And the Drakensberg is a little mountain bordering Lesotho. Probably all have climbed it once, at least, or done it a few times. So every time you go to the mountain, you are amazed by how it looks. The magnitude and the size of it is like just humbling. And in a sense, Arabic is of that nature, where the full Arabic is maybe the Everest. Going lower down and going lower down, you still have at least some idea of what the language is about, how it works, what are the mechanics of it, what are the building blocks, etc. And I think it gives you at least some indication of, the taste of what that journey into the Quran is about. So I think what we need to do is have a mindset that we are going to conquer this little Drakensberg mountain that we see here in front of us. And we're going to put a little bit of effort in trying to do work even outside of these classes that are being run. You will purchase at least one book on Arabic, so it will guide you along as well. And obviously go back to these notes, go back to the recordings that will help you along your way. Now, grammar is in a kind of a, if you look at it graphically, it looks like a jigsaw puzzle. And I've got a jigsaw on the side here. And the two core things in grammar, in my opinion, is a study of nouns, which we are busy doing for the past 4 lessons. And we will be doing for the next about 3 or 4 lessons still. Then we go on to the other big, building block of the knowledge of grammar is on verbs. Now, if you put those two building blocks together, they kind of connect in one way or the other because there has to be agreement in a sentence between the nouns used and the verbs used. But with it, there are other, things that link to nouns like prepositions and conjunctions and case and gender and number and all that. Those are the concepts we're doing with nouns. And then later on, when we do verbs, you'll find there are other concepts that come in around verbs as well. And then you'll see the picture emerging after you have studied like a little more. And once you see that picture, then you know you are on the path of at least understanding and appreciating the language a bit more. I like that analogy that Ustad Noman Ali Khan talks of when he explains Surah Al-Fatiha, that one ayah that says, Ihdina Siratul Mustaqim, guide us to the straight path. Now, Allah in that verse is not saying guide us to Jannah, although that is the ultimate aim and ambition of all of us. He's saying guide us onto just the straight path. In other words, don't get deviated by these side off-ramps and other people and their views or whatever. You remain focused on what you want to achieve. And in this case, if we focus on the Arabic grammar to understand the Quran, then let's focus just on that. And hopefully we will stay on that path and not get diverted or distracted or move away or even quit. All you need to be on the path at least. So in your life, make that your life ambition that you are going to conquer this little Drakensberg in front of you. And you can do it because many, many have done it. And if you just have a little bit of preparedness and a mindset to succeed, you can actually do it. All right, so with that in mind, let's carry on with our lesson today itself. We were looking at the 4 pillars of the language. And I think I've indicated it here in this colorful way where we've started off with nouns. We've done the 3 case endings of nominative, accusative, genitive. Nominative being the subject of the sentence, accusative being the object of the sentence, and the genitive is used in 2 ways, which is after a preposition or in any dafa construction, which we'll do in a later lesson. So those are the 3 uses of the case endings, the e, and u on the end of a noun, or the and in at the end of a noun. Those are the things that show us the case. In other words, the purpose of that word in terms of that sentence. Then we've started with number, we've covered singular, and we've covered dual. And plural, we started with it last, in the previous lesson, where we just did the sound masculine and the sound feminine plural. And today we're going to do the broken plural, which is the last element of the concept called plural. Once we've finished the plural sort of section in this jigsaw puzzle, we'll then move on to the gender and the definiteness, ending our study of what relates to nouns as one of the key building blocks of this particular course. All right, so let's do a quick revision. We looked at two words. I'm looking at one example in the masculine form, and now we didn't do actually the concept of gender, but you can see it very clearly here. Kitabun is a book, and Sayyaratun is a car. One of the key features of a gender identifier in Arabic in nouns is when you look at the last letter of that word, if it has a ta marbuta, which is this closed ta, the ta that looks like that, or on its own it looks like that, like a circle. Marbut, ribat, something, rabat is to like enclose something, right? Ribat is like a fortress. So this ta is like enclosed within this little circle sort of shape. The other ta is the open ta, the ta maftuha, right? It's open because it's not closed on the top. Can you see there's nothing that comes here on the top that closes it, whereas this one is a closed ta, whether in this format or that format, right? So the ta marbuta is the one indicator of feminine. Now, in terms of singular, we have the case endings, the double dhamma, which is un, the double fatha is an, and the double kasra is in. Right, and that's kitabun, ban, and bin. That shows the case endings of a normal masculine singular noun. Obviously, if we add an article al in front, al means the, right? So whenever the word al is added to the word here in the front as a prefix, then that double dhammatain becomes one dhamma. Or the double fathatain becomes one fatha, or the double kasratain becomes one kasra. Right? So that's the difference when you add an al in front. If you make the word definite, so you're saying the book instead of a book, and that's the difference between the concept of definiteness as it appears before a masculine noun. Then you look at the feminine example as well. Sayyaratun, anything with the ta marbuta at the end would be generally feminine. You have the same rules applying, that the double dhammatain is a nominative case, double fathatain is accusative, and double kasra is a genitive case. And likewise, if you add a al, it becomes as-sayyaratu or as-sayyarata, as-sayyarati. Right? So that's the singular concept. So you take any word in its singular form, you can see which gender it is. If you can just look for this one feature, although there are other ways of seeing what is feminine. We'll come to that as well in a later lesson. But for now, if you got this idea in it, at least clear that a singular noun in its indefinite form is un and in, and in its definite with al is u, or i. Okay. All right, then we move on to the dual. Dual also we've covered. We'll just go as we have a revision. So if you take the word kitab, I'm giving you one masculine example here and one feminine example, right? There you can see the tamat buddha there. So that, is feminine, this is masculine. Now, if you take the un form here, the nominative version, if you want to make the word dual, you're adding an ani at the end, this thing here, right? Ani, for nominative case. And then for the un and the in versions, these two together give you the same thing, which is the ani form, right? So when you add that suffix of ani to a singular noun, you're making it in its dual form, right? In its indefinite sort of version. If you add an al in front, which you can, then you'll have al kitabani here, and here you'll have al kitabini, al kitabini. Okay. Likewise with the the feminine, it's the same principle that applies. Madrasatun is a school, and in terms of gender, the school is a feminine noun because of the ta marbuta at the end. And the one change here is when you look at the spelling. So when you have a ta marbuta, the ta marbuta that looks like that becomes a ta maftuha, or the open ta, when you're joining the ani. Can you see the ta here? It changes shape from that closed ta to the open ta, and then you're still doing the ani and the ani at the end. Right? So essentially it's the same rule that applies, except that the ta change shape, and you can have it in the indefinite case, which is this one here, or you can add an al in front here, and then it will still look the same at the end on the other side with the al and without the al. Okay, so there's no double vowel here. It's not kitaban, nin, nun, or nan, right? You can see it's just ani and ani, right? Whether it's indefinite or definite, whether it's just two books or the two books, you notice it's just ani and ani. There's no double vowel that comes in or reduced to a single vowel, because the ani ani just shows the concept of dual, or the fact that that word is two of it, right? So it's two books or two schools or two teachers or two doctors, whatever the case is. Okay, so that's a dual. We must remember just this concept here to show you the dual. Ani, ani, at the end of a word gives you the dual form. All right, now we move on to the division of the sound plurals that we did. Now, we said the sound plural can be either masculine or it can be feminine, right? So both are sound. Sound meaning there are many words like this that will have this kind of an ending of una and ina, right? So muallim is one example. Mudarris is another example. It will become mudarrisuna, mudarrisina, right? That's the male idea, the male version of it. Then if you find the female side where the sound feminine plural now comes in, because it's a feminine word here, muallimatun, a female teacher. Here, what happens is you're adding atun or atin, right? And again, because it's a ta marbuta, the ta here, you are joining it to an open ta, and adding an alif in front. Sorry, so it's the ta marbuta like falling away, right? So you're getting rid of it, and then in its place you're replacing it with an atun. Right? So technically it's an atun just like that. It's not like this here. Right? So this atun and atin gives you the nominative case and accusative genitive case for a female teacher. Likewise, if you have mudarrisatun, you get mudarrisatun, or mudarrisatan, mudarrisatin, mudarrisatinia, mudarrisati as well in this particular example. Right, so here you notice there's a double dhamma, double coming in here in this feminine version. But as far as the masculine goes, there's no double vowel at the end. Can you see it's a single vowel? All these. So those are just some features of the sound plurals. And what's good about it is most male, like professions or like words with the meme in it that show the person doing that particular thing, it ends with una and ina in the male forms, right? There's the una here and the ina in these, and then the atun, atin is in the female equivalent of that particular word, like muallim becomes muallimatun feminine, and then you get muallimatun, muallimatin. Okay, so this is the feature you look for. At the end of the word, you look for una, ina, or atun, atin. So far we've done 6 sort of features that you're looking for. In the dual, you're looking for ani, ani. For the plurals, you're looking for una, ina, and atun, atin for male, female. Okay, then we move on to the broken plural. Now, why it's called broken is because every other word, like not referring to male human beings or female human beings. Like here's examples, but now even in the examples there's some exceptions because technically Rajulun is a person, like a male, a man, right? So if I gave you the rule to say that generally for male human beings you use una ina, here what happens is in Rajulun is a unique word in that it refers to a man, but the plural doesn't take rajuluna, because that's what the rajuluna, right? Rajuluna. This is what you would have thought. There's a una ina coming in because it's a male human being, but it's not the case. That's why it's called broken, because there are so many other words, and there's many in broken plural in the categories here. I'm just giving you 4 different words. Now, if you just look at these words on their own, they all look different, right? One has got an alif inside. This one just got 3 letters, but look at the voweling here, right? This voweling here is different from this voweling here. And even this is also 3 letters, but you notice that this voweling also goes like that. There are different words in different sort of patterns looking differently, and it only comes with experience and use what is what, right? Now, the other thing about broken plurals is they take different forms. Like if you look at this form here, which is 3 letters, but it's got u, and un. Here it's got e, a, and un. Here it's got and then the feminine plural coming in here. And here it's just totally different. It's just, it's an alif in front, the alif here and a hamza here. So if you look at it, this is why it's called broken. There's no like pattern that you can say that if this one is kutubun here, and this one must be rujulun, like this, rujulun, or this one must be sunutun or something. There's nothing like that. That's why it's called broken, because this one is one kind of plural. This is another, this is another, and this is another. So each one has got its a unique sort of way it looks and appears. And when you're trying to look for features, you kind of don't find a feature that runs common as a common thread in all of these. You might find other words like in this sort of rhyming format where you can find rusulun, right? Like Rasul is a messenger. Rusul is also taking these 3 vowels. Can you see that's a rusulun, kutubun. So you do get other words that maybe fit this pattern, right? So there might be another one, another one in this pattern. Then you might find some others in this pattern. Then you might find some others in this pattern, perhaps, even in this pattern. So that's why it's called broken plural, right? It's not sound. Sound is where there's a pattern and it sounds the same all the time, like abiduna, mu'minuna, muslimuna, salihuna, sabiruna. That one I showed you last time in the previous lesson, where all those una, those are sound masculine plurals. Then likewise, atun were the sound feminine plurals. But here it's all different, therefore it's broken. Okay, so here what I've shown you is you can talk about things. You can sometimes refer to people also. And sometimes even a thing that takes the sound feminine plural. Right? So this is a unique thing because atin is for sound feminine plural, remember? But here it's a thing that takes even the sound feminine plural. And here also for male human beings, you notice it doesn't take una, it takes a unique pattern, which is ambiya. Let's look at a few more examples. Here we have a masculine word and a feminine equivalent, right? With the Tamabut showing you. So Talib means a student. Now, Talib is also a unique word in that it's a male human being, but you notice it doesn't become Talibuna like you'd expect with the sound masculine plural. This one becomes Tulab. So it's a different word totally, but you can see those root letters of Talaba. Talaba is to seek, seek knowledge or to seek something. So Talib and Tulab is the plural. Right? So this one takes a broken plural. Whereas Talibatun takes Talibat, which is Atun Atin, which is kind of a normal sound feminine plural, but it's in this category because I'm just trying to show you the difference here, that this is a broken plural and then this is a sound feminine plural in terms of these, the way this particular word works. Likewise, if you look at tilmid, which is a pupil, like a primary school student, or pupil will be primary school and student is a high school or university student. So tilmid takes on a unique broken plural, which is talamid. You notice this alif coming in here, extra here, right? And then the word itself. And then tilmidatun becomes tilmidat, which is again a sound feminine plural. So you can see here that broken plural sometimes applies in the male version of it, but not in the female version of that equivalent word. Just to show you one other anomaly of what is broken and what is sound plurals. And then we go on to other examples, like here we have waladun is a boy, and notice here it becomes olad. Right? Now this is a broken plural. Now bint is unique in that, notice this is not a ta marbuta, this particular one. Can you see it's an open ta? It's not that ta marbuta that looks like that. Okay. Now bint, if you notice what's happened to it, it has changed to a kind of a sound feminine plural on this side. But at the same time, you notice the same ta is used as the last ta. You know that atun, atin coming in. So that ta is like repeated, but it's given you a banatun as a plural of bint. Right? And so don't make this mistake where you think it's bint and then you must still add an atun, so it's bintatun or something. There's no such word as bintatun. Right? Bint becomes banat. It's a unique feature of this. That's why it's kind of a broken plural in a way. But in terms of case endings, it can have atun and atin, which is like a sound feminine plural in terms of its usage. Right, then we look at one profession like tabib becomes atibba. Also, you notice a big change with this. There's two alifs that comes in here, alif here and an alif here, and a hamza actually atibba. So this is a unique broken plural again. In tabibatun, this becomes a normal sound feminine plural. Can you see? Sound feminine plural, this atun, atin ending there. So all in all, if you look at these broken plural slides, every line I gave you so far in these 8 or 12 words that we looked at so far, each one is like unique and you have to just remember it. And the best way of remembering it is when you study the word walad, just try and recall or connect it with the word olad immediately so that you know it's the plural is olad and not waladuna or waladina as you'd expect it to be because it's a boy or the male. Right? And bint becomes banat and not bintat or bintuna or bintina or whatever, you know, it's not one of the sound, that sound. It's also a sound feminine plural, but because it's a girl, it can't take that particular case in. All right, then we look at some other unique ones. Kitab becomes kutub, right? And then sayyaratun, which is a car, right, ends in a ta marbuta, so it's feminine. Notice what happens here. It took like a sound feminine plural, sayyarat. Okay, and this is another unique one where one word imra'atun has got no plural form. The plural is actually nisa'un, which is a totally different word. Okay, so here's one like a unique category of a broken plural where there's only a singular and only a plural, right? Which is these two that you see on the screen now. Okay, let's look at maybe looking at it in sentences just to give you an idea of why something is nominative, why is it accusative, or why is it genitive, right? We said subject, the subject of a sentence is normally just nominative in case, okay? And if you look at here, it's a nominal sentence in that this word means these, right? These are, and then kutub mufida, kitab, plural is kutub, and mufid, because this is a thing, right? Kutub is a books. Mufid is useful, this word mufid, but it takes agreement in gender because kutub in its plural sense, because it's a broken plural, has to take feminine as an adjective, right? And therefore you have mufidatun here coming in because that's the one rule about gender agreement for a noun and an adjective, right? In terms of a broken plural context. And you notice this, even this here is feminine, hadi, not hada. Hada is for this for male and hadi is for female. So these, in the feminine context, is hadihi. Kutub is a broken plural, so is regarded as feminine, and the adjective is also regarded as feminine. So if you see, there's agreement of feminine in all three words here. Okay. And the other thing you notice is an adjective comes after the noun. So in English, we normally say, youthful books in that sequence. We say youthful is the adjective first and then books. In Arabic, we always put the adjective after the noun. So we put kutub first, followed by mufidatun. Can you see that there's a bit of a reverse order in terms of when you translate it? So this is an example of a nominal sentence, and that's why this is nominative in case kutubun, and therefore mufidatun has to agree also in case mufidatun nominative. Right, then we look at accusative, the use of accusative. Accusative is normally when we talk of an object in a sentence. So here we had a subject in this example, right? And there was no verb or anything. Here you can see the verb coming in, right? So this verb is what differentiates from a nominal sentence to a verbal sentence. Right? So this is a verbal sentence and this was a nominal sentence. Nominal meaning it just had sort of nouns and pronouns in a sentence, but this one has got a verb here. I read, or I read, or I will read. So it's got a verb, right? And the verb has got tense. So this is past tense. So I read new books. I is the person doing this action. So the person is the subject, right? The doer of the sentence. So I, this is the verb. So this becomes the object side of it, right? So the object is normally regarded as the accusative in case. And therefore it is the fathatain that you notice here. And likewise a fathatain on the adjective that has to agree with the noun. So the noun and adjective agree both having fathatain because it's new books without the al. Yeah, and if it was al, then it would be al kutuba al jadidata. So the same rule applies with the al. If you put the al, then the double vowel in becomes a single vowel. All right, so here's an example of why it is accusative in case, which is because of the verb here. Okay. Now, if you look at this third example, the cover of books. Right now, this particular thing is what we call the idafa construction, which we'll cover later. But for now, just briefly, it's basically two nouns. The cover is a noun, and books are a noun. There's no verb here, right? There's no doing word here. There's no action word. It's not like here we had reading or sitting or yawning or sleeping or eating or something. Those are action words which are verbs. Here you're just talking of a noun. Here's another noun, and here's a third noun, right? And there's a little preposition there telling you where this particular thing is. The cover of books is on top of the table, right? So the table is here, and the covers of the books are on top of the table. So in this example, ghilaf is the word cover. So the first noun of the idafa comes first. Right? And then of, and after the word of, the other noun comes next. Right? So that's the idafa construction, two nouns following one another. And they are both, like, in a sense, like definite, especially the first noun is always definite because you notice there's no al here, right? This is the unique thing about the idafa. But there's one dhamma shows that this word is definite. Like normally when you put an al, then you say al-ghilafu, the cover, right? But if you put it in idafa, you don't put an al there, so this al is out here, and you only have the one noun without the al. but that single vowel shows you that it is definite. So the cover, that's how it's translated, the cover of. Here you have books. It's not the books. Normal idafa is where you say the cover of the books, right? You have a the here, in which case you can say al here if you have the, but this one is just indefinite, so it's the cover. Only the cover is definite. And this example is the cover of books, not of the books. So you see this little nuance of the missing here in English, and therefore the al missing here as well in the Arabic. But this is the Nidafa construction, right? Khilafu Kutubin, the cover of books. Now here you have the other reason why things are genitive. Whenever you have a preposition like Allah is on, or ma is with, or tahta is under, or be is also with, any preposition makes the next noun that follows it genitive in case. So the use of genitive is basically in two conditions, right? The one is after a preposition, this particular example here. And in the other example, this in the idafa construction, the second noun is always genitive in case. So anytime you find idafa construction or a preposition following a noun, you know those words that follow, or in the idafa, the second noun is always genitive. And in the case of after a preposition, always genitive in case. All right, so here's an example of like meaningful sentences and why we use nominative or accusative or genitive. Huh? So essentially, nominative is like just where it's a subject or nominal sentence with only nouns in it. Right? This example here. Accusative, it's where there's a verb that comes in that makes this part of the sentence accusative in case. And then in the example of genitive, I showed you two examples of why you use genitive. The one is the genitive construction, which is idafa construction, and after preposition. Let's look at another like full sentences just to exemplify that same idea that we've done now. Here we just have women are in the garden. And so you notice there's no verb here. There's no like they are sitting in the garden or playing in the garden or whatever. So it's just simply a nominal sentence with two words, and then this in is the fi, the preposition. Right? So nisa'un has to be, there's no reason for it to be any other case because it's the normal subject of a sentence. So therefore you have a nominative case, the un there. Right? Then here you have in and then the, so there's the al there. And the garden is hadika, and because there's an in the garden, there's a kasra on the t. So can you see this fi making this word genitive in case, but this is nominative, the first noun, because there's no need for it to be in any other case. Okay? So here's an example of nominative here. This is an example of a genitive here in this side of the sentence because of the fi in it. Right, in the case of an accusative, we said we have to have a subject, a person doing the action. And this is the verb, I saw. And then this is the object. Right? What did you see? It's women. And then here's the verb at the end, this example, talking. Right? So this is like a verbal sentence, but of you're having two verbs. You're saying I saw, which is the verb, and talking, which is another verb. Right? Here we have a past tense verb, saw. Right? And this is present tense, talking, not talked or spoken or whatever. This is at the moment they're currently like talking, so that's the present tense verb here. All right, so this is an example with two verbs in it, one past tense, one present tense. Now here, because you have shahadtu, this is the I here, the two representing I. Right? Shahada is the verb, and we like this conjugation of a verb. I'll explain it in the verbal lesson we do some while later. But for now, this example is the I is the subject. Right? This is the verb, and this becomes the object because you saw. What did you see? You saw women, and women has to be accusative in case. Therefore, this nisa'an takes an and not uno in. Okay, and this is just the present tense of haddatha, or yatahaddath is a verb, and banna at the end to show feminine plural. Okay, then we look at this last example. Haka ibu nisa kathiratun. Hakiba is one bag. Hakaib is a broken plural, right? So here's a broken plural. And again, this is an idafa construction, the bags of women. All right, can you see the word of coming in to show you is it idafa? The bags of women. The word there's no alia. There's a feature of the idafa construction, but the vowel shows that it's definite. So it's the bags. And then of women, this is just indefinite. So it's the matain, kasatain, the double kasraya. Bags of women are many. Right? So this is it's like the quantity is shown right at the end. So between the idaf, in an idafa, the two nouns, you don't add any adjectives there. You add adjectives only after the idafa at the end of it. But they agree in case. So if this is the nominative, then this has to be nominative if the word kathir is an adjective for hakaib. If it was kathir for the relating to women, then it would have been a kasatania. Okay? The bags of many women. Then you'll have kasatania to show the word many is describing nisa because this is genitive and genitive. Otherwise, the here it's un and here it's u, so you know the word many is describing the bags in this context. Okay, and finally, we're looking at here's one further example of muallimuna, teachers. This is well, it starts with a noun, but you notice there is a verb, darasa, to study. Now, because you have plural here, teachers, then the verb has to be plural also. There's a una with the ya in front that shows the present tense plural form. So teachers are studying, and then the language is accusative in case. Right? Can you see that? Because it comes after the verb and the subject, and this is the object, and the object is always accusative in case. Okay, so here's an example of the una showing you a masculine plural nominative in case. Then here it's I saw teachers in the classrooms. Again, the I is the doer, so this is the subject. Right? So this is the subject here. The I is the saw. Teachers, you notice here it's ina now. Case ending for accusative because it is the object of our sentence, and then fil fusul in the classrooms. This is also kasra because of that rule of genitive where fi is a preposition, therefore this part has to be genitive in case. And then this last one is I am with diligent or hardworking teachers. Notice with is a preposition here, right? This with preposition. Therefore, preposition makes this next noun take ina as the case ending. I am with teachers that are hardworking. This also agrees in terms of the adjective agrees with the noun in this particular context. All right, so I think we've covered the lesson itself. I'm just going to show you some examples from the Quran of plural types. If I'm just going to highlight some words, and you can see this, right? Minal mu'minina. Can you see the una, ina area at the end? Ina. Mu'min is a believer. So mu'minuna is the sound masculine plural. Una and ina, right? So ina, this is the ina is here. So therefore, how did we get to the, why are we using the ina form here? Because of the preposition min in front of it, right? Meaning this among. So that preposition makes the word believers take the genitive case. Right? Can you see why it's genitive? Because of the min in front. If you look at the second example, humur zalimuna. So if you look at the explanation, the meaning, whoever makes friends with them, wali, yatawallahum, to make friends, for ulaika, and they are the ones that are the wrongdoers. Right? So it's a kind of, there is a verb here, but it's the verb applies to this sentence. Here, if you notice, this is like a part on its own, where whom introduces they, right? And then here is ظالمون. They are the ones that are the wrongdoers. Now here you have the una. Can you say the ظالمون? And that's because this verb didn't affect it because they are like kind of two different ideas in one sentence. All right, I think I've reached the end of the time for today. We'll stop at this stage. So what we've done so far, and I want to show you a bit more of Quranic examples perhaps in the next lesson, is we've covered the concept of number so far. So we've done singular, we've done dual, which is ani, aini. We've done the two sound plurals, which is the una, ina, for sound masculine plural, and atun, atin, which is a sound feminine plural. And then we've done broken plural, which is all different types of plurals, different shapes, different sizes, different formats, different numbers of letters. And they're all unique, and therefore they are called broken because everything is like broken apart. One is like this, one is like that, and one is something else. So there's nothing common about them, as it were. So therefore they're not sound. They are the opposite of sound, which is broken. So that covers the concept of plural in terms of how it applies to nouns in particular. Right, we'll stop at that point. read والعصر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.